Alright everyone, we're now entering day 5 of Venezuela having basically no electricity. Their grid has significant issues, and if you remember when the power first went out for a large part of the country, Maduro almost immediately blamed opposition saboteurs, and they almost immediately blamed Maduro. And then, like, conspiracy theorists, which is a term that I use half-jokingly, socialists, well, you know, they believe in an economic conspiracy because they don't understand economics. They all started blaming a U.S. cyber attack. The CIA did it to unseat Maduro. It turns out that it appears to be more related. It appears to be literally a coincidental sort of thing, where there was, I guess, a brush fire and their electrical grid went down. And the problem is that all of the people that are capable of repairing the grid have either fled the country or are already busy because there's too much infrastructure for too few people. And so it appears that it actually is technically a coincidental sort of situation that's going. It wasn't Maduro and it wasn't the opposition, and it certainly wasn't a cyber attack. I was thinking to myself, how could a U.S. cyber attack even target their grid when it's like, you know, what is it? Like, most of their equipment probably dates to the 60s at this point. I'm assuming that the U.S. couldn't cyber attack it. Like, you know, oh, you hacked a computer and took their grid down. I don't think that it works quite that way in Venezuela. I'm thinking it has more to do with physical damage to the actual electrical lines themselves. Much like socialism is highly centralized automatically because there's no other way to manage the sort of bureaucracy and redistribution you need. Their power grid is highly centralized, which makes it vulnerable. So as a couple stations go down, 90% of the nation doesn't have electricity. So, yeah, a little bit of a dire problem. Initially, I thought it was more likely Maduro would do this, because I'm figuring if he intends to go and purge people, or do a real crackdown, he probably doesn't want people to have power because he doesn't want them to broadcast it to the world. He doesn't want people, he wants their smartphone, he'll wait a day or two till their smartphones are no longer charged, and then he'll march the troops in. It looks like that's not happening. In fact, all that's happening is a shit ton of rioting and looting is slowly metastasizing throughout the urban centers of the country. Again, though, I mean, at this point, is there much to loot? Unless you go into one of those gated communities with their own private security forces, where they have the fake supermarkets that know that, you know, 99% of average Venezuelans can't afford to shop at. They probably half the time only take U.S. dollars anyway. Like that one idiot propagandist from the Daily Beast visited down Venezuela, and he was like marveling, "Oh, look at all this meat. There's so much food, people can't even eat it all." Yeah, there's a reason why those shelves are so fully stocked, dude. It's because no one can afford the produce. Most of it will probably end up getting thrown in the trash, actually. Wonderful socialist. That, or it'll be given to the troops, maybe. Or maybe Maduro will eat it all, because he's a fat ass. That's the way socialism works. It's all a bunch of smoke and mirrors. The real voodoo economics is thinking that, you know, people shouldn't be able to own their own shit. AOC calls capitalism irredeemable. It doesn't need redemption. That's why it's irredeemable. It's already been redeemed. It's a perfect system. It's a utopian system. Tempering it is just the pragmatic side. These people are economically backwards and ignorant in every possible way, shape, and form. They've never uplifted a single person in the human history other than their own party leaders. And I have nothing but reprehension for people that are so stupid as to be socialists. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be dumb to be a socialist. Sorry. Or a communist. Or an anarcho-anything, really, for the most part. ANCAPs aside a little bit, because at least their ideology understands private property, but that's a utopian, non-pragmatic, non-working system, too. Show me your ANCAP paradise in human history. Plenty of classically liberal systems, plenty of free market limited government systems, no ANCAP societies. There's a reason for that. Venezuela, though, here's the thing. Here's the other part I thought about when I initially saw the story days ago about their power grid going down. When the socialists began to harangue about their CIA targeted our grid things, I thought to myself, what would that even accomplish? Fundamentally, it wouldn't accomplish much, because like there's so few people have so few appliances still running. Like, power was already off every other day anyway. A lot of the industry is broken down. It's not like there's a whole lot of food to refrigerate. Most of what you're going to have is dried staple grains, and that's basically a starvation diet. Something like that, or your fresh farm produce from your forced labor. Like, remember when Maduro 2 years ago introduced that bill where people that weren't already in agriculture had to work like a few days a year in like de facto collective farms? And it's like the least efficient system possible, because, you know, the labor that they're putting into growing the crops is probably greater than the caloric amount that they're growing. And so it's just a clusterfuck of awful. It was so funny, because you try to argue with these people, and they're like, well, the U.S. has been sanctioning Venezuela and bullying it for decades. No, it hasn't. Full sanctions on Venezuela didn't exist until a couple of months ago. Until then, it was just a handful of Maduro officials. It was never about the oil. Oil was never sanctioned until this year, dude. Venezuela was already collapsing. No, we tip it over the edge because we say, okay, enough is enough. No, that happened because Maduro was fucking shooting at his own people. I'm no fan of U.S. foreign policy in most cases, and I sure as hell don't want to invade Venezuela. But that doesn't mean that Maduro's a good guy. The idea of this pie in the sky, oh, socialist, real workers' paradise, it's all propaganda. So which is it? Are the shelves stocked and everything is hunky-dory, like one propagandist says? Or is Venezuela totally embattled, and it's embattled and impoverished and terrible and corrupt and falling apart because of the evil Uncle Sam over here? Which one is it? Because they're mutually exclusive. Doesn't make any sense. That's the nature of shitty propaganda. You've got the homegrown socialist grassroots bullshitters that are saying that Uncle Sam is a bully, and then you've got the more slicked-back professionalistic propagandists pulling a USSR and making like a fake village and shit like that. Oh, yeah, we have lots of wealth here. Look at this beautiful facade that we painted, essentially. There's a, what's it called? Something village. I can't remember exactly. It's a sort of a wives' tale that there was this dude, and I guess the leader of Russia was like taking a tour, and he would erect like these fake villages that looked really nice, but it was literally just empty facades, and she would be paraded through, oh, everything's great, my kingdom is wonderful, and actually things were like falling apart. I can't remember what that's called. I can't remember the name of the dude that supposedly did that. It turns out that's only half true. Getting off on a tangent a little bit, which people seem to enjoy, yeah, Venezuela has no electricity. Wonderful. Hot and humid, and you don't have the AC, but not that you could run it anyway. I mean, who could afford to do that? Yeah, before it's like, okay, 5 hours a day you have electricity. It's sort of like North Korea mode. Like North Korea's one TV station only broadcasts for about 12 hours a day. And then has sporadic problems as well. Like there's a pirate broadcast feed. I can't remember exactly the link to it anymore. The old one stopped working, and there was another one that worked. I couldn't tell you if it still does, because I'm assuming somebody's smuggling it out through North Korea itself, probably risking their lives at any given time. Must be a little underground railroad within North Korea dedicated towards taking DPRK's art and culture and showing the larger world, by the way, their TV better than American TV. The fucking North Korea's one TV station is better than all the fucking cable that we have in this country. What the fuck gives? Mainly because it's creepy and weird. It's great shit. Should watch it sometime. Somebody link me if there's an active link actually to that, or a site that's hosting an active link or a stream or something, and try to figure out the schedules, because they're all in weird time zones, because it's Korea. Venezuela, meanwhile, is more and more like North Korea. You've got they've took down access within the country to Twitter and YouTube and shit too. I think it's still out. Not that it really matters, because I mean there's no electricity. Like your laptop by now is dead. Your phone's probably dead. Does Maduro allow them to have those little solar panel-based chargers or something like that? Like, well, at least I can play Angry Birds. At least I can listen to my MP3. At least have music or something while I sit here in the dark and chain smoke, because there's nothing else to do in Venezuela at the moment. That's about all. Peace out.